JB here. Hope everyone's doing outstanding. Tuesday, March 18th, 3:12. On this Friday afternoon, talk quick about the market. Some names I'm looking at go from there. S&P down over 1%. A far cry from yesterday afternoon where we were nearing the highs of the session. All things considered, you look at the chart and where we came from Friday, the big rally Friday, then yesterday, all the way up to almost eclipsing the 200-day moving average. Uh, for now, I would somewhat chalk it up to consolidation. I mean, there's two options here, right? For now, will be that we do a stair step bounce. So you would hope that tomorrow or Thursday we have a green session, and if we do have a red session tomorrow, we don't uh, dip too much, right? 550 red session. Don't want it to dip maybe 558 or so, which were the lows and support resistance. Well, when we hit last week a couple times. If we do, then you worry about the other scenario. That's not going to be a stair step up. It was a little somewhat relief bounce before the next leg to the downside. I still give a higher probability of a bounce. I was saying that last week, although we did get a red session on that Wednesday when I thought we were going to bounce it. Thursday. Uh, well, all things considered, I mean, it stinks to see the move here today, but hopefully just a little short-term consolidation or pullback before the next bounce to the upside. The other thing, you take a look at some of the names that are selling off. It's like the momentum names just right out of the gate got destroyed. You look at AppLovin, a lot of these names that have already been selling off from earnings. Reddit, which when I was on audio yesterday was ramping on that news from Google. I think it was 145. It's all the way down here to 110. Affirm, Upstart, Supermicro, lots of names down 7, 8, 9, 10% plus. So I'm we'll find out tomorrow. Tomorrow's gonna be the key day, right? So we have the Fed meeting tomorrow. You have the statement, then you'll have Fed Chair Powell at 2:30. How is he going to spin this with all the uncertainty? I'm sure I'm probably going to count how many times either he gets asked about uncertainty or he responds and puts uncertainty in his comments. But definitely going to be important tomorrow. I think he's got to walk the tightrope, which he's been doing, to not get overly dovish, right? You don't want to get to the point where people are worried that maybe he might react to cutting. And you already see some people. I mean, there was articles this morning writing about the transitory, right? The big hiccups post COVID, where they thought that the inflation spike was more just because of the pent up demand, and then of obviously the supply, sending in those stimulus checks and all that, all the PPP loans and all that stuff that kind of like should have been a short term bump, and instead it turned. They thought it was going to be a transitory bump in inflation. It turned not to be transitory, and luckily they reacted as opposed to just holding pat. Otherwise, we'd be in a much dire straits right now. So definitely gonna have to walk that tightrope. The odds have ticked up a little bit, 2 to 3 rate cuts this year. At some point, it was down to one. So we'll have to see how that all plays out. But to me, I mean, 563 was a key area. Uh, would love to have seen that hold today. Maybe we'll get back above that tomorrow and then work our way back to 570 plus before the week is out. Some other things I was noting yesterday's rally, you saw the Magnificent Seven uh, just getting, they weren't getting destroyed, but they were all red, right? Including Tesla was just down substantially yesterday. And the market was rallying. And then today, similar story. All the Mag 7 are getting beat up again. And Meta's down over 3% today. And it finally is in the red. After being up 25% year to date, middle of February, it just turned red just a little while ago. And now every Mag 7 stock is red on the year. So everybody talked about the lack of breadth over the last 2 years and the Mag 7 driving the gains in the market. And considering those names have been performing horribly with more than half down 10% year to date, the S&P's, I think it was down 3% year to date. So anyway, always trying to keep a glass half full kind of perspective on things. And then last but not least, the amount of stocks trading above their 200-day moving average didn't tick down too much so far today, so I'll still be watching that. All right, so now individual names. So right now you have NVIDIA's GTC keynote speech at the GTC conference. You have Jensen speaking. I listened to the first parts of it, and it's a lot of it's just the AI buzzwords, right? He just goes down the whole list of AI buzzwords, and then it's tough to kind of like get anything meaningful out of it, and then people they'll cherry pick, right? So you'll have slides that come out where he talks about the amount of spend in capex, I think going up to 1 trillion in 2028, and then you'll see that all over FinTwit, and then also talking about the Microsofts and Google's, how much Honeywell chips they're going to use, and it's like over 1 million. All these big numbers, and you go look and see NVIDIA stock and it doesn't move much. I think most of this is baked in. He just goes down the whole list of, the machine learning, the generative AI, sentiment analysis, big data, all those buzzwords, and it seems like it's just much of a more general overview than anything else. But who knows? Maybe I'll be wrong. I was actually looking at Dell before, and it's sitting here at highs. I'm like, Dell looks interesting, even as a spec lotto, like 102 calls. But I'll probably just sit on my hands because it does make sense to take risk on in this current environment. But anyway, so which brings me to Intel. So I talked about on the watch list, on the rant this morning on the watch list, that I was going to lock the rest of my weekly strikes in, and then possibly look for April's. It reversed the open. It was trading down near 25.80. I didn't see the premiums continue to erode, so I locked the rest of my calls in for a small profit. Nice trade considering where it was last week when I got the strikes. And then I waited a little bit, and then I went and got the April calls. I was saying 27 is probably the short term target. So if it gets there, I wouldn't be surprised to see some chop. But then you start looking at the August gap fill, and that's 28. I think it's 28.75. You go back to August when it had that horrible earnings report that really shook shook the stock. So not saying it gets there today, tomorrow, or the next day, but I do think that's the next short-term spot. And then if you can break through that, I think the 30s come pretty easily. And April stripes give some time. So have some time to get there. I'll be patient. And if it shows some strength, maybe I'll add some more calls as well. But really like this story, solidly over its 200-day moving average. I also talked about it last week too. My only concern is so many people who are on the bull ride, lots of people on this train. So when there's a lot of people on the train, it's probably gonna be volatile. So we'll see. It was $27 and dropped all the way back under 20 in a matter of a week or two. So hopefully that we don't get a deja vu. I don't think we will. But all right, so that's Intel. Then on to Baidu. Just remarkable. It was 107 in the pre-market. I talked about locking some more strikes in at the open. I was patient and then finally got some more out for 400%. And now I just hold a couple strikes. I was actually looking at some 115 calls. Thankfully, I didn't get those at the highs. So thought process here is I'll probably wait till tomorrow. If it can hold its gains, then I'll look for some higher strikes to play for that possible test from October, 112.50, 115, somewhere in there. And then, it's almost like I wouldn't call it a protection play, but I think these China ADR stocks can do well regardless of what the U.S. market does. So, even see it today. The futures are falling. The market was falling after the open, and Baidu it was like trading like it was on a different exchange. So I think that kind of offers up a different alternative instead of in lieu of trying to get some puts. I think it's going to do well regardless. So that's kind of the Baidu situation. I'll just hold the rest of my calls, and I don't have too many left. They're up nearly 100%, so I'll just hold those. Still watching Block. Disappointing. I got two upgrades today. So you have the Keen upgrade before the bell, and I don't know if the other one came out after, but you had KeyBank kept their overweight rating and but lowered their price target to 85. Block's at 59.81 right now. So kind of disappointing. Like if I was holding the 60 calls still, I probably would have locked them in already because it's not moving much, and then the premiums aren't spiking like they should when we have bounces. So still looking possibly to add some 62, 63 spec calls, but again, similar to looking to get on Baidu or Intel, I'll probably just be very patient, adding more risk. But really like that one for reversal, especially if the market finds footing tomorrow post-Fed. And then other names. So, I always say always be hedging, but even when the SPY is selling off 1%, the names that I'm looking to get put hedges on, like the JP Morgans, the Visas, they've been like rocks. And Visa is just toe-tailing its 50-day moving average, hasn't broken back above it since getting underneath that last week when I had the puts. And it's just sitting there. And it's like, even if it does dip, it's like the risk reward's not there because the premiums, it's like you're trying to swim upstream. You're like a trout, right? You get the puts and the stock could still fall, but not enough to even make money on the premiums. Probably the premium is going to erode more. So I'll probably, I'll be very, again, I've been saying keep risk low, open to both sides of the trade. And then, if I do see some opportunities, like normally right now with Dell, I'm like, you have to think that there's not going to be much negative in the way that NVIDIA is going to, Jensen's spinning the keynote conference. You have to think there's going to just be a lot of positive commentary, and Dell's front and center when it comes to the server side of things. So I'm trying to rationalize getting in calls, but I'll probably just sit on my hands there. But that's it, folks. We got 38 minutes to the close. Tomorrow's going to be a fun day. I'll be back. Let's have a great day. Rock and roll.